we are ready to launch, ready to kick off our very first learner-centered leadership forum of the school year. We got two dynamic leaders from Santa Ana USD in California, and I'm telling you what, you are lucky to be in good hands with the two of them, not me. They've got some amazing things happening in their school district, and we're just glad to have them part of the learner-centered family. For all of our guests who are joining us today, first of all, on behalf of the learner-centered collaborative family, we just want to say thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do for the children across this country. More importantly, the service you're providing the kids and the families that live in your communities. If you could, in the chat, if you could drop in your name, who you are, where you're from, what you do, what district you represent. You got a hashtag that represents your school district. We just want to show you a little bit of love, give you a chance to build some connection with some other folks that are joining us today from across the country. I know right off the bat, while you're dropping that information in the chat, I want to shout out our two teammates that are here today that are partners with SAUSD, Miss Katie Dub, we call her Katie Weisberg, and Mr. Cesar Morales, two fantastic team members that are lifting up SAUSD as trusted partners on behalf of Learner Centered. So again, if you want to drop in your name, where you're from, what district you represent in the chat, we'll get started here in just a few seconds after we get a chance to welcome everybody here. Liz Perry, so good to see you. Welcome to the team. Liz is a phenomenal teammate here at Learner Center Collaborative. We're so lucky to have her. I don't know about you, Jerry, but I thought I saw a familiar face or a familiar name in there. Is it Zandra? Anybody? Do you know Zandra by any chance?
Zandra, who is that?
Who
Zandra,
knows Zandra?
the national recognized superintendent of the year. Oh my gosh,
Superintendent of the year. Where
Congratulations, Zandra.
Right. Congratulations, my friend. Very much deserved.
I see Heather from SAUSD. Heather, hi. Thanks for being here.
Randall, so glad you're here, bud. Glad to have you. Hoping you have a great start to the school year. Brian, hope you're having a good day. Glad you made it with us today. We got a treat coming with you for two leaders that are going to drop some serious knowledge about some of the work they're doing in their district. Hope you enjoy the session today. I want to take just a quick moment, just kind of level set here today and just calibrate. We got a fun agenda planned for you. This will be a rapid fire, but more importantly, it's going to be something different, right? This is a learner-centered collaborative leadership forum. This is not your standard webinar where you just got a panel of folks to just deliver content to you all the time. I want to paint the picture for what the experience is going to be. We're going to start out with some introductions. We'll slide into a quick Q&A between myself and our two panelists after they get a chance to introduce themselves. They're going to talk a little bit about some of the dynamic big moves that they're making in their school district and just share, right? This is all about connections and networking. So they're going to share some knowledge with you about the big work that they're doing. The unique thing that we've got planned today in our leadership forum is after the Q&A, we're going to create a space where you as our guests will get a chance to have some intimate Q&A interaction with our two guests. We'll have two breakout rooms, one with Dr. Lopez, one with Superintendent Jerry. And you'll get a chance to dig into some conversation with them and go a little bit deeper into some content, some strategies, some protocols, and approaches that they're taking to lead their communities through their learner-centered work. Again, this is not just us talking at you. So as you kind of digest some of the content that they're sharing, we want to encourage you to be thinking about some questions, those deeper questions that you have, where you want to steal some of those approaches that these two dynamic leaders are offering. So just know that that breakout session is coming. After we finish the breakout, we'll come back with a little bit of closing comments from our two guests, and then we'll wrap up for the day. So if you are ready, Jerry, if you are ready, Lorraine, I was born ready. I woke up ready, waiting to hear some things that are on your mind. Let's give you a chance to introduce yourselves, our two guests from SAUSD. Now, I know as a former superintendent, you always want to toss it to the assistant superintendent first. That way they get a chance to take a little bit of opportunity and introduce the superintendent. So Dr. Lorraine, I'm going to slide it over to you to give you a chance to introduce yourself to our guests.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Just a privilege to be here with you this afternoon. My name is Lorraine Perez. I'm the Deputy Superintendent here in Santa Ana Unified School District. Joined the team 3 years ago, actually this month. So you imagine 3 years ago, we're in the middle of the pandemic, and my good friend and mentor, Jerry, called me in the middle of the pandemic and said, "How about moving to a new district? How does that sound?" And I said, "Yeah, that sounds amazing. Why not?" So joined the team and really through his vision, started looking at how we can come out of that crisis, emerge and not waste that crisis and emerge in a better place. and have loved every minute of it. Honestly, I will say what you're going to hear us talk about today might not be so drastically different than things you've heard before, but I think the approach and the intentionality may be something that is unique to our circumstances, and we're just excited to share that. I will share with you that our superintendent is visionary, and he is super excited to have you all as his captive audience. So hang on. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jerry.
Thanks. Yeah, anytime I get an opportunity to have a captive audience, I will take it. But I think we're in important times right now, and I'll explain a little bit more in a little bit. But my name is Jerry Almendarez, Superintendent, Santa Ana Unified School District. I've been here for approximately 4 years. Prior to Santa Ana, I was the superintendent in Colton Joint Unified School District, where I spent 25 years, the last 10 as superintendent in that district. And I got here in January of 2020, 3 months before COVID hit. And I had done my research, at least I thought I'd done my research. And this district is very similar to my previous district, except it was twice the size, larger. And so taking an advantage of the opportunity that became available, not thinking I was going to get it, ended up getting it. And then 3 months later, COVID hit. And what we thought was going to be shut down for a few weeks ended up being a few years. And so during that time, there was a lot of reflecting, a lot of unknowns, like we all experienced, and really just reflecting on what are we going to do, how are we going to navigate this, and how are we going to come out better than we went in. And that's when I took that downtime to really, as people were leaving the district, identify those key players that I wanted to bring in and help navigate the environment. So that's a little bit about me. I look forward to today's conversations. My focus is going to be on the future and how we're coming out of this better, how we think differently, and what are we going to do different to create the change that we need to create.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your seats, grab your pens, get that pad of paper ready to capture some deep knowledge coming from these two dynamic leaders. Jerry, I want to start with you with a quick question, just kind of set the stage, right? Can you just take a few moments and just talk about how did SAUSD get here on this Learner Center journey? Maybe even share a little bit about the district and how you got here, please.
Yeah, so we had a relationship with Devin, a few of the individuals within the organizations. Prior to that, we actually started with the book, and we do book studies in the executive cabinet. And as we started reading, and really what captured my attention on the research that Devin was involved in was the student voice concept and the intentional effort to really understand what the students were thinking. And so as I was reading the book during COVID, and as I started to reflect on our practices and what we're doing, we were doing a lot of student voice things, but it wasn't really capturing the essence. There were surveys going out, there were emails going out, but it really didn't capture the essence. So what we decided to do was pull together a group of community leaders during this time virtually via Zoom, about 80 community leaders within Santa Ana that reflected our faith-based community, our higher ed, nonprofits, parents, teachers, and other community members that were interested, and had a conversation about those high-performing organizations, educational organizations across the world, and look at the research behind what those characteristics were, and then reflected on that in the things that we were doing here in Santa Ana. And so as a result of that long conversation, our graduate profile was developed, and it was a collective effort by our community that really was our North Star, turned out to be our North Star. And so as we were beginning to roll that out, we were having multiple conversations with our leadership team members, talking about, here's what it looks like. Principals are going to do this, teachers are going to do this. And then at one of our meetings, one of our administrators says, wait a minute. We go, what? He goes, look around the room. We're creating an environment for kids without the kid's voice being in here. How do we know we're headed in the right direction? And that really, you could hear a pin drop in that sense. We looked at each other and kind of really reflected. And for a moment there, I was a little concerned because we had spent 7 months creating this. The excitement of rolling it out was there, but then we didn't really the comment was made about the lack of student voice, so we didn't feel comfortable moving forward. So we pivoted and we did a 600 student listening session. We have a research department. That research department randomly created a formula that randomly selected schools and students at those school sites that reflected the community and the population of that school. And so we had special ed students in there. We had, ASB students. We had a wide variety, but they were randomly selected. And then we did a listening tour. We went out to these school sites. We had iPads. We had microphones set up at the tables, and we had hired facilitators to facilitate a discussion that was reflective of the graduate profile and have a dialogue with the kids. And so we heard some really powerful things. The three I'll mention right now. A kindergartner raised his hand and got the microphone and said, "I don't learn well sitting down for 6 hours." Kindergartner in a room full of strangers. And then we had a middle school student stand up and say, "I just wish the teacher would pronounce my name correctly." And her point for that was that the teacher's taking her identity away from her. And then a high school student said, "I don't even bother going to my 6th period algebra class because the teacher gives me a hard time before I even get to sit down. So why do I even go?" And those three comments are examples that are reflective of other conversations we've had, but you don't get the anxiety, you don't get the tone of voice, you don't get the feeling that the passion that the kids have by a survey or an email that comes out. So that's where we really learned. There was another example where we had, again, a variety of students. We had this bilingual student come in, and she was excited to answer a question that we had posed. She gets the mic and she freezes. She drops the mic, takes off running, and starts crying. And we were in a room of about 50 high school kids, and everybody was looking around like going, "What's wrong?" So we go back, one of our staff members go back there and starts talking to her, come to find out she only speaks Spanish. And we didn't have a translator there for her, and she was embarrassed to speak English in her broken English, and so she just froze and ran. And that was another powerful pivot moment that we did. From that point forward, we brought in translators for our students and had the ability for them to be more comfortable and more engaged. And so as a result of those conversations, then we said, okay, now we got to go back and meet with the principals. And that's when we identified Learner Center Collaborative as the organization that would help carry the torch across the finish line in the work that we were going to do to roll it out, but also we added a couple of other layers with the work that we're doing with Learner Center Collaborative in the alignment of a lot of the site SIPSAs, the LCAP, even the evaluations, the principal evaluation instrument. So I'll toss it over to Lorraine if I missed anything.
Lorraine, can we kind of piggyback and just dig a little bit deeper, right? Jerry covers some really high level topics. I want to give you a chance to dig a little deeper on the graduate profile, right? Why the graduate profile in SAUSD, and how do you see the graduate profile providing life-changing opportunities for your learners?
Sure. So I think, in all organizations, we're all working to create systems that get great outcomes for students. What the graduate profile allows and provides space for is clarity, how we're going to do that thing. So many of us have board priorities and the things that our board is expecting us to deliver, and kind of coalescing that to actually make sense for everybody in the organization, for our teachers, for our support staff, for our custodial team, for our nutrition services, for everybody in the organization. You're not really sure what that means for you. But with the graduate profile, it provides clarity for folks. People, and Jerry referenced this being the North Star. It became the North Star. We do hold that graduate profile up and have everybody's work really aligned to that, and ask that question of ourselves: what are we doing to support realizing that graduate profile in our organization? And we do view it as a point of equity. So when we have our systems lined up and we're doing that work now, and it'll be an ongoing thing, we will be providing equity and access to all of our students. So when we think about how it changes their opportunities, it really opens that door and doesn't just give this thing that is aspirational And the dream state that we sometimes tell parents, oh, all your kids are going to be college and career ready. What does that mean? And what does that mean for the systems of support in our organization? And so that piece around clarity for our work that we're doing towards students, but it also provides clarity for the adults in the organization, including all of our partners, our parent partners, our community partners. We work a lot with higher ed and with the business community. So what the graduate profile does for us and for our students is that rallying cry. It gets everybody around that thing. So when we're having conversations with higher ed, we're saying this is what we are working towards, and here's how we're doing it. And I have to tell you, our college and university partners really pressed us, and they were like, well, how are you measuring that? And how will you know when you're successful? And so we were really in conversation with one another and asking them to help us get metrics around that. Like, if we're doing this well, then what does that mean for how students are coming to you? And as our business partners, also, when we're doing this well, and we are producing students that can go into the workforce or go into college, what does that mean for how they're coming to them? So it really, really is this point of clarity, and it's collective impact. So and Jerry mentioned a lot of these things with our listening sessions. Listening sessions just didn't happen with students, they happen with a lot of folks. And it gave us the ability to deeply understand, so that way we could align all of the efforts and people's work. And it's really interesting to see how the conversations have changed with folks in our organization. I actually hear people asking that question about how is this aligned, which, when people have clarity around their work, then they can be a lot more productive because they know what they're aiming for. So it's super exciting. And I want to highlight this piece in what these are early observations, but early observations for our educators. It's invigorating for them because they have a sense of guardrails and safety and security around what we're working towards. It's not like people, and we're not there yet by any stretch of the imagination. It's a work in progress, but I see them excited about the liberties that they now have, because we all know what we're working towards, and the way that they get to do it is really driven by them as a school site, and them teachers as professionals and staff as professionals. So I think not only does it provide a changing opportunity for our student learners, I think it provides a changing opportunity for our adult learners in the system as well, and that is really very exciting for us to see.
And Marlon, if I may add, prior to me getting here, the district went through, I want to say, 4 superintendents every 2 years. That the political environment was challenging, and for whatever reason, the turnover happened not just at the superintendent level, but executive cabinet level. And so it was really an interesting time, and not knowing what to expect when I came, and then having to navigate the hot political environment, and then dealing with COVID at the same time. So, I mean, in some cases, there was no other way to go but up or leave. And believe me, there were many times that I have Heather as my thought partner here. And many times Heather, after board meetings, as she watched them or would see things happening around the district, would send me so many positive little notes saying, hang in there. So, I mean, Heather and Trang are both employees of our district. And it's just, that's what keeps me going, is having that connection with the community, with the staff, and really wanting to be there for them and to provide the support and stability. And then the board, prior to me and to my knowledge, we didn't have board priorities. And so as decisions were being made at the executive cabinet level, without those collective responsibilities and priorities, things were crazy. And so what we tried to do was to bring some sanity back and bring some systems and structures back. And we were able to navigate the board priorities that currently exist, and then use those as our driving force to move forward and do the alignment that we're currently involved in right now.
Jerry, do you mind if we just stay on that topic for maybe 2 more minutes, if you don't mind, just to dig a little bit about the the alignment, because we got a couple superintendents on the call, we got a number of district leaders on the call. You're very intentional about the connection and alignment between your big moves with the district. And I've just heard you say the alignment with the board priorities. Can you take a few more minutes and kind of just expand your comment on that, please?
So I'm going to take a minute, and then Lorraine's going to take the other minute. But for me at the executive, with my job is to govern, is to be that conduit with the Board of Education. So the more I can get them aligned, the more I can turn that work over to Lorraine, and then she can do the groundwork. And so what we were able to do is establish the 4 board priorities, and then have a conversation with the board around how those 4 priorities are aligned with the work that we do in our LCAP. In the state of California, we have that accountability model. So we align the board priorities with the LCAP. The other conversation I had with the board was they need to make it part of my evaluation, because if it's part of my evaluation, I'm going to turn around and share it with my leadership team to say, okay, here's how I'm doing. I need you to support the work that the board sees that we have to improve, and I need you to take credit for the work that they're recognizing as good status. So as a superintendent, working with the board, communicating about the alignment with the LCAP or the accountability model, and then my evaluation, and having that conversation about how they are holding me accountable to roll out and to provide the support for the implementation of their board priorities. And then Lorraine will take it from there.
So yeah, us even landing on those 4 board priorities, and it was 5 actually, and our board has been amazing in allowing us to really get dialed in on what we're working towards and what we're after every single day. So we now have 4 board priorities, and our work as a staff was to align, think about our graduate profile and how that actually aligns, and how one of our board priorities, operational efficiency and effectiveness, and how that undergirds everything that we're doing. But it's very exciting because we're getting very dialed in on these things. So Jerry talked about his evaluation, which is very explicitly aligned with the board priorities in our graduate profile. That language, you see it reflected. That also feeds, our cabinet evaluation, but we just launched our site leader evaluation, which is also aligned. That is a big shift. And I think, I'd be curious to find out how many other districts have something that, that is so aligned that way. And that also, the work around our single plan for student achievement, or SIPSA, is aligned. All of these things are actually getting lined up, so all arrows are pointing in the same direction. So energies aren't split, and there's clarity. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. And there's a lot more work to do, but I think major pieces like board priorities, like graduate profile, like this single plan for student achievement, evaluations, those major pieces have been very, very intentionally aligned. And honestly, it's a huge thanks and partnership with Learner-Centered Collaborative. To be honest with you, this work is really, our partnership with them has been instrumental in being able to accomplish the alignment that we've accomplished thus far.
And Marlon, I want to add one thing that may not be unique to a lot of districts, but it starts with executive cabinet. So executive cabinet, we're at the principal meetings. What we spend time on demonstrates what we value. And what we heard early on in Santa Ana from our employees, our staff, was that we're disconnected. The executive cabinet management is disconnected from what happens at the school sites. So as we began to roll out the board priorities and do the LCAP alignment work, we intentionally put the agendas, the principal meeting agendas, that had the same agenda items that we have with the Board of Education. So once we aligned the board priorities with the LCAP, the next step was to work on aligning the site SIPSs with the LCAP and the board priorities. And so Lorraine and I, and you guys know because you've seen us there at the meetings with the principals, sitting down with the principals, hearing them, I don't want to say complain, but share their frustrations, and then really taking that to heart. And it's similar to the student listening sessions that we did. I could sit in this office all day long and have my staff come up and say, okay, here's what they're upset about. But it's different than actually being in the room, seeing the emotions come out of them, the frustrations come out of them, the things that they're complaining about that could be low-hanging fruit that we could take care of in a very short period of time. But because one department is not talking to another, those things aren't happening. And that frustration just built up over time. And so by us being a part of these meetings, eliminates that. And that has evolved into other operational meetings to do more aligned work. And so we did the alignment with the LCAP, the site SIPSAs, and then now we're doing the alignment with the evaluation instrument for our principals.
Love it. Love it. Thank you for sharing that, both of you. I want to offer one more question before we jump into our breakout. So for our guests who are on the webinar with us today, start getting those questions formulated in your mind or written down. It's just a moment you're going to have a chance to interact with Jerry or Lorraine based on topics of your choosing. Before we jump into breakouts, right, got to ask this question because we got a beautiful mind on the call. Jerry, I'm going to pick on you for just a few moments if you're okay with us picking on you. You okay with us picking on you?
Yeah.
All right. Jerry, you're always talking about the future of education, right? And I hear you talk about it all the time. You're the beautiful brain, the beautiful mind in the field. Can you just take a moment and just talk to us about the future of education and where you see SAUSD headed next?
So I think COVID really changed a lot of everything around us. You know, you look at all of the issues that are happening globally. You look at the climate issues. You look at the immigration issues. You look at the food insecurities. You look at the fluctuation in market. And I think one of the things that we have to come to realize is that this is our new normal. And so how are we going to do things differently? For me personally, as a superintendent, I've been in this for 29 years. And the meetings that I attended after COVID, where everybody said they were going to do things differently and we needed to change, those agendas looked exactly the same. And so my frustration was we can't keep doing what we've always done because we're going to get what we've always gotten. And so what are we going to do differently? And I came across this quote by Peter Drucker. He says, if you want to predict the future, you have to create it. And Jane McGonigal, the author of Imaginable, which is, she's a futurist and talks about signals. She says that there are signals out there that are happening all around us that we have to make sense out of. And if we're able to capture these signals and bring some coherence to them, then we have an opportunity to predict and to change the outcome of our future. The future doesn't have to happen to us. And so my challenge for Lorraine and for our leadership team is, okay, we're doing all these wonderful things, but they're the same things we've always done. What are we going to do different? And with ChatGPT and this AI and this innovation and technology happening right in front of us, we have to, use, that's one signal that we have to capture. The United Nations came out with a report, a UNESCO report on the future of education. There's another example of things that we can start to embrace. And so we really have to just reflect and tell ourselves, what are we doing different? Because what we've done in the past hasn't worked and isn't for the past 50 years, 100 years. And so we're on this innovative mindset. I challenge my people to take risks, have fun at what you're doing, learn, because I don't want to become irrelevant as a school district.
Always nice to pick your brain, my friend. You've always got knowledge bombs to drop on us. Got a page of notes have already been taken as well. Thank you for sharing. So for our guests, the next 15 minutes is going to be for you. We're going to stop the Q&A session here. We're going to create 2 breakout rooms. Please take advantage of the time to steal some strategies, approaches, and just have some thought collaboration with our 2 leaders. So we're going to shut down here for 15 minutes. Breakout rooms are now open. Please select the one that is most attractive to you and enjoy some time with our SAUSD leaders. Get that song, that welcome back song. I just start singing it to myself. I won't sing it out loud right now, though. I'd ruin somebody's day. But welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. All right. Hope you enjoyed some time with our SAUSD team. Really hope you got a chance to dig into some conversation with them and just pick some things as thought leaders to be able to take back to your teams and your districts. I want to close out here with just some closing comments, not from me because you don't want to hear me talk, but from our 2 amazing leaders from SAUSD. We're going to give them each 2 minutes each, just share some closing comments for our guests. We'll start off, as always, with Dr. Lopez. That way, if you want to say something funny about your superintendent, it comes from you and not me. But Lorraine, appreciate you being here today. Any closing comments for our guests?
You know what? I just want to point out, Jerry, that he is making me do this. He's asked me twice already.
Just like we planned.
So, I mean, I don't know if it's obvious, but like this relationship that we have, we have a great relationship, and so that makes all the difference in the world with doing the work and having a great time. But closing comments, honestly, don't wait for it to be perfect. Just we've got, just don't be afraid and lean in and take the risk, and fail forward. Honestly, that's all that I can, really say, because I know we're all doing really great work and we want it to have such a great impact. And sometimes we have this fear factor of like, man, what if it doesn't turn out the way, the way I want it, or doesn't get the outcomes? I think we have to give ourselves permission to fail forward and just not wait for perfection, because we're in the job of learning, and we've got to also model that. I'm not going to give my boss a hard time today. I just can't, Marlon.
Every day she gives me a hard time,
I
Marlene.
do.
Which in all honesty, we complement each other, and my weaknesses are her strengths. So she really makes me shine. And so, but I do want to say thank you to Lorraine for the boots on the ground work. But the quote that captures the essence of what I'm trying to talk about here in the breakout session and with the entire group is an example that Seth Godin gave. He's the author of Song of Significance. He talks about Steve Ballmer, who was a former Microsoft executive who failed to act on the opportunities available to Microsoft with search engines, smartphones, social networks, and cloud computing. They went from first to last. They missed the 4 biggest transitions during the biggest decade of tech. My intent is not to miss this transition. My intent is to do and to have conversations in as many spaces as I can to raise the voice of the sense of urgency of us embracing this innovation that exists, so we can give our communities and our kids a fighting chance, because this is a game changer for them if we're able to train them in the skills that they can be competitive in the 21st century. They have assets, they're multilingual, they can speak multiple languages, not just 2 or 1, but in order for them to have a chance to change their trajectory, we have to have these conversations and give them exposure to these innovations.
Wow. Let's just leave it there with a big WOW. Wow. Just join me with some virtual snaps for our 2 leaders from SAUSD. Snap it out. Much love to the SAUSD team, doing amazing work. If you're not following these 2 dynamic leaders, if you're not following this dynamic district, please hop on your social media accounts, reach out to them. Great thought partners who are doing some amazing things for kids. Before we close out, I do have to take a moment, and if I get in trouble, I get in trouble. Lori, I need you to have my back on this. I want to shout out my teammate for behind the scenes, Ashley Coe. She is the one that is making all of this happen. Our webinar series this year is absolutely fire. We got some amazing things planned, and she's my partner in crime. And Ashley, I just want to take a quick moment to throw you some virtual snaps for all of your hard work to make this happen. Let's give it up for Ashley. Everybody else, appreciate all your hard work. Thank you for your service and what you're doing for your communities. Jerry and Lorraine, thanks for being here today. To all of our guests, in a couple of days, you'll receive an email with a video recording link of today's webinar. Feel free to chew on it as you're working out and doing some self-care. Appreciate all that you do. Thanks for being part of the Learner Center Collaborative family. Wish you all the best for the rest of the week. Have yourself a great weekend too. Take care. Great to see everyone. Bye.